Maybe it's not hand tool anymore.
Yeah, maybe not.
Maybe we advance. Further discussion on that item? All right, all those in favor of accepting this memorial bench application, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you very much. Okay, now to our main agenda item, I guess, which is the license applications for the day sailors and windjammers. As everybody knows, of course, this couple of years ago, I think we did 3-year contracts, and those are now up for renewal. You guys all have letters from each of the applicants. I think it'd be easiest to we should go through them individually, obviously. But I also wanted to talk about Steve had done as per our requirements, the annual reviews with each of the day sailors and windjammers, and that's in your attachments there. Just scan through those to refresh my memory on that one. Yep. And you did the windjammers and the day sailors together, didn't you? Yeah. Yeah. All right, and you completed all of those. Good. Okay, so if anybody have an objection, we'll take the windjammers first, and work our way down the list that way. So we do have, for no reason whatsoever, I'm just going to take Mary Day, because we have that one here. I'm just going to find it. Mary Day. So you guys had a it's 1, 3, 3, yeah. So we'll take the head of the harbor boats first, I guess you could say. Starting with Mary Day, I thought I saw Jen come in. Hello, Jen. If I'll say at this point, if any applicants want to speak, just please come up and grab a mic and state your name and where you're from and all of that. You do not have to speak, but always lovely to hear from everyone. So Mary Day, Barry and Jen have asked to renew their lease and permit with the town. Steve, you had done your review. You didn't find anything. You used the pump out boat.
No.
Play well with
A+.
others.
A+.
Exactly. All right.
I noticed the windjammer, there were no applications included in the package.
Yeah,
Whereas for the day sailors, we had applications.
I noticed that as well. And from what I got from Jen, excuse me, Liz, that's what has always happened, is that the windjammers send a letter to request. I think this is something that we want to talk about. It's like, why do they send a letter and the other guys do a application? That was all I got. I was like, that's odd. Keep in mind also that what we're doing today is reviewing each of these, recommending to the select board. So we do not approve these permits. We recommend. So we can say, this is based on the material that we had, which was this is what we had. Anyway, further, any discussion on, I think we should take these one by one.
Mhm.
And so any discussion on the Mary Day application letter to renew their berth at the head of the harbor. Discussion. Okay. We have a motion.
I move to accept the Mary Day's application for use renewal
Thank you very much.
for their birth in town.
Second, anyone?
Second.
Elliot, thank you. Further discussion on the Mary Day? All those in favor of accepting the Mary Days application and recommending to the select board that they be renewed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you very much. Next, we will go to the Lewis R. French. Captain Becky, welcome. Good to see you again. Hope you had a good summer.
Yes, absolutely.
First summer, right on. Thank you for your letter as well. Steve, you only had 1 year to review Captain Becky and the French, but seemed to go well. From what I think.
Give me any bill for lots of money, so.
Oh, well. She figured out the system. All righty, any discussion about the French application to renew, letter of application to renew, if you will. I have a motion on the French. Elliot.
I move that we approve the application for the Lewis R. French.
You want to second that one? Elliot, excuse me, Bruce, thank you. Further discussion on the Lewis R. French application. All those in favor of approving the Lewis R. French and recommending to the select board. Bruce, are you okay?
You know, there's not use of this.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you.
That's a preferential item, don't
Yeah.
And then lastly, Angelique. Did I see anybody from Angelique? Hello, how you doing? Yes, nice to see you. So we have a letter from the Angelique requesting that they be renewed for another 3-year term. Steve, I did see that your review was clean, as it were, which is great. I'd love to see the Angelique coming and going. But I wanted to note the concern that Candace had put into her note about the clarification regarding the parking pass.
Yeah.
So that was a great point. I'll be honest, I've been confused as to what permit came with the Windjammer head of the harbor addendums, which is what it is. Each of the commercial passenger vessels, you may recall, has their agreement with the town, which is a blanket agreement to operate from municipal property. And then then there's an addendum for where that permit is approved to operate from. So that's public landing addendum, head of the harbor addendum. Or maybe it was library park, I can't remember how it was phrased. I don't know the answer to this question. And so I think that we ought to, if we recommend approval of this renewal, I think we should ask the select board, because I don't think this is part of our, as it relates to parking. I don't really feel that it's something that we can recommend or can state a matter on. Elliot.
What does the licensee understand to be that about the parking?
So, I'm Candace, with the Angelique. In the past, we have been issued a parking pass, at least for the head of the harbor boats. I don't know about the other addendums for the other locations, but we've been issued a parking pass, one that we can put on our vehicle and it can park on Atlantic while we're sailing. Last year was the first year that we didn't get that pass. And I think it stemmed from parking changes from other locations in Camden, not necessarily our location, but so that's why I.
So you didn't receive that this year for 2022.
Did you question that?
Where did you park the board?
Okay. What was that, Bruce?
I want to know where did you park? You couldn't park on Atlantic,
The public lots or,
up by the fire station?
yeah,
Did you question anybody about not getting that permit? last
we
year?
did at the time that we paid our lease.
What was the response?
She said that the parking was revoked for the Windjammers.
And did she give you a reason?
A select board decision, I guess.
Across the board, then, yeah, it sounded like,
This
That was from
sounds like
where-
it's connected with the day sailor. parking.
And the shop owners and everyone,
Was the whole. town.
and the harbor master.
And the harbor master.
They got rid of everybody. I got a ticket, they ticketed the town vehicle. They did.
Nice. Gotta make money.
I mean, it's just, yeah, it's across the board kind of thing, that parking has always been such a big issue, and I'm not gonna be judge or jury on this one, I mean, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but they're trying it, and I mean, it's worth definitely bringing it up, and it's worth you guys to bring it to them to say, to see if maybe they would consider a revision of some sort. I mean, I feel for you guys, especially for the fact that you've always had that. And it's gotta be hard to be like, oh, wait, I can't park my car. It's gotta be one more little variable when you guys are leaving, you've got weather and stuff like that to worry about, and now you gotta worry about your car, so, but it's definitely worth to bring it up again. I don't get see what's the worst that could happen. They can
Yeah.
shoot you down and say, no way.
Okay,
And then just to be clear, you would like that permit, reinstated if possible.
yeah.
Yeah.
We-
Okay. Yeah. And I think you're exactly right. The meeting notes from November talked about the public landing lots, but it did not talk about, or it was not clear
Okay,
about the
so
other.
maybe it wasn't blank.
Well, I think it may or may not have been. I think we were mostly focused on, or they were mostly focused on the public landing. That was.
That's the clarification I
Yep.
think I was asking for in my
Yep.
letters. Was it blanket or was it really a problem with public landing?
Yep, exactly. Thank you for raising that one. It's a great question.
So that letter was submitted to whom?
My letter was submitted as part of my request for the lease agreement,
Do
the
You
renewal.
you mean her question to the,
Yeah, right.
I don't know, was that in the letter when you asked about the permit and they said, oh, that was revoked or whatever?
Oh, that was not a letter. That
That's-
was in person when we went to pay our
Okay.
lease agreement, our lease payments.
So I think it's,
So this letter that was written is a part of the.
the letter is the letter that's in your packet or in your
Right,
email.
right.
That's the only letter that exists.
Okay, so it's part of the application.
Yep.
For renewal.
Yep, it's their letter. It's the Angelique's letter.
Who addresses that? Who responds to that letter?
It is written, I believe, to both us and to the select board. But as I said, we're in charge of recommending to the select board. So I think if we were to recommend this to the select board for approval, I think I would argue as a blanket statement for question for the select board, we will ask for clarification on the parking rights that go along with these permits, these addendums at the head of the harbor.
That sounds good.
Thank you very much.
We don't think we have not voted on this one. Is
No,
there?
we need a motion.
We need a motion.
This motion is to accept the application and also forward to the select board the concerns of the applicant regarding their parking permit and request that they look into it and provide clarification.
Second.
Margie? Any further discussion on the Angelique? All those in favor of recommending the Angelique's renewal? Bruce, are you? Yes, thank you very much. 5-0. All right, so there's the head of the harbor, and now we will go to the public landing for the windjammers. And you should have 2 letters from Captain Williamson regarding his vessels. All those. First one. The first one was from November 10th. Again, requesting that he renewed, and actually Captain Williamson did do the application for commercial passenger vessel float permit. For the Grace Bailey, the Mercantile. And the Swift. So you'll see in that first letter that there was one change, so he's essentially asking to, my understanding, and Ray, please clarify if I misstate this, that you're asking essentially to transfer the license from the Mistress, the Windjammer license from the Mistress to the Swift.
That's what I was.
Correct, yeah, cool, thank you. So there's, yeah, I think that's pretty much the. But then there's a follow-up letter. Which did you guys all get that one? Came in somewhat recently. Okay. And that one's the November 23rd letter. Regarding specifically the Grace Bailey and the Mercantile. My understanding of this second letter, Ray, if you wouldn't mind just again clarifying if I misstate this, is just putting us on notice, if you will, that you have a purchase and sale agreement underway on the Grace Bailey and the Mercantile.
Yeah, I wanted to be upfront about.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It is not completed yet. It's kind of still in the works.
Right, and been here before.
Right. Yeah. Mhm.
Right.
Totally.
Is there a possibility that one or more boats might leave the harbor?
I'm not really at liberty to say exactly what's gonna happen. There's several negotiations on the way and.
You're essentially saying you need to renew this because that deal may fall through. Yep. Perfectly fair. And then if the deal were to go through and they wanted to stay in Camden and operate in Camden, then they would apply to the town for a new license, but it would be, I know you talk about a transfer, et cetera, that again, all up to the select board with I think we would review that as has happened in the past. Bruce.
I have a question. You do have like applications for all three boats in here.
Yep.
So that possibility that you would have three boats, that you're requesting three licenses.
Yep.
Stay in Camden.
Yep.
Okay, so it's not so much a transfer of Mercantile.
Well, there's no transfer right now. This
Right.
is, that would be in the future and
You're still gonna replace it, right? So you want to bring a new boat in. Basically what it's saying is you want to bring in an additional boat into the harbor.
no,
Well,
no, the Mistress would go away.
I'm only looking to renew the berths for 3 vessels. I'm not looking to add a vessel. I'm just suggesting that I replace the Mistress with the Swift.
The vessel would change, but the owner and operator and all of that would remain the same.
So there's, maybe I don't understand what these applications are. It says application for commercial passenger vessel in Camden for Mistress, would you?
Well, did I fill that out? Well,
Yeah, there's one
my only
filled out.
reason I filled that out was because I know that the town is concerned about ownership,
Yeah,
documentation, insurance, and so forth. And the Mistress is tied to public land.
Yeah.
And it's
Well, actually, I do want to clarify, that's a good point, Bruce, but I don't see an application it's referenced in the letter that he wants to use the Swift instead of the Mistress, but it's referenced in there, but is there a,
Yes,
Yeah,
Oh,
there's an application, I see an application for the Swift. Mercantile and Bailey, and not for the Mistress.
oh,
Exactly.
never mind, I got the name.
yeah, that's what I'm,
Sorry. Those start with M.
that's no problem.
Yeah, it's confusing enough what's happening. That's not.
Yeah, exactly.
I understand what he's trying to do,
Yeah, so I would just like to, I guess, clarify just for me, and hopefully if there's any questions, so. Ray has for many years had 3 vessels, the Grace Bailey, the Mercantile, and the Mistress. he now wants to change. He came to me earlier in the season and said, okay, I want to hopefully sell the mistress, and I want to put in the new vessel, which is approximately the same size. It's been in that berth, it fits well. The Swift, Captain Swift, so he wants to run that out of Camden as a windjammer. That's why that's basically what he's doing. Whether or not to sell the other boats, I guess right now
It's secondary,
Yes.
it's notice, is all. we have, is
That's
all
a
we get.
work in
It's a work in progress, so what if?
Probably slowly, right? Greg?
right. Exactly. And obviously, I hope they stay. But if someone buys it and they want to move it,
That's
a
their
big-
regular, yeah. Awesome. Any other discussion on this application? Have a motion. On the three, this would be a group motion, I think, of the three applications. For public landing addendum from the main windjammer cruises for the Swift. And actually, I guess I should ask about the Swift. I mean, in terms of operating from the public landing where the mistress has and all that, all good. This size was, everything is all good. That's what I think.
Yes.
Great looking boat, by the way.
Yeah,
I like
it's
it.
interesting. Brick, it's a hermaphrodite.
Right.
Hermaphrodite brick.
It's very cool.
You know, as far as the folks that sell the antique boats, it's one for Camden, it's one more, spike on the trophy horn, you know. I mean, it's-
Yep. Yeah, it's cool. Sorry, all right, any, do I have a motion on this one? For the Swift, Grace Bailey, and the Mercantile. Bruce, all
Motion that we accept the application.
right, second. Margie, thank you. Further discussion on main windjammer cruises. All those in favor of recommending approval of the Grace Bailey, the Mercantile, and Swift, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you very much. All right, so that is all the windjammers, unless there's any new ones I missed. So, all right, let's talk about the day sailors now. There's a number of items from the day sailors, individually and collectively. We did have a nice letter that you guys saw from the Camden Day Sailing Association. And if you guys got a chance to review that and look at what they've done for the town, for the community with their support as and their I thought it was really nice, the appreciation that the select board gave them during that pandemic. So tough time for everyone. I think that's the only group item.
I have another one. I noticed in the applications for each of the day sailors, there were schedules included, with the exception of the Lazy Jack, which had a handwritten note in place of the actual printed schedule. The schedules, I thought they were dated 2020. And
We haven't changed
is
anything.
that schedule updated ever?
Can you repeat the question, please?
The packages for the day sailor applications, they have a schedule, a printed schedule, and they highlighted their slots. Each of them.
Yeah.
Schedule is dated 2020.
Yeah, the actual schedule is only, when I first took over, there was many times where things were changing, boats were changing, and the schedule was changing quite a bit. And I could actually go back and probably show you all the changes, but no, the quick question of that is now we have basically moved this thing to a fine working machine. Once in a while, someone would come to me. So, what we're looking at the fact that the Sally never ran, but was actually one of the vessels that had a permit. Because that never ran, a lot of times folks would be like, come to me and say, "Hey, is it okay if I leave the boat here for another few minutes, because I gotta do this or that," and I always tell them that as long as the other people that have the permits don't care. So they all come together and and that's stated, as long as I don't hear from you guys and everyone's smooth, I don't really care if you deviate a little bit and take a spot that's not being used, because it makes sense, it's a town asset, it's not being used, so if someone requests it, then yeah. As far as the actual thing saying, I'd like to make an official change, so that obviously hasn't happened since, 2020. So,
And they each get to that point, they each operate on a 15-minute period, 15-minute, and I assume that's from approaching the dock to unloading, to
Yes.
loading and.
yeah, and again, if no one's there before and after,
Yeah.
they say to the other, permit holders, hey, I'm gonna be probably next 20 minutes. And they're like, I'm not gonna be there, obviously, if they're waiting to get on, then they don't even have to talk about it. They know that a surprise is coming in and they're waiting in my turning basin. And then they're not gonna sit there and drag their heels, they're gonna get off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, but so that is 15 minutes. I mean, technically, I know.
technically on paper, yes, and it's enforceable. They're so there, I can say to them, hey, here's the schedule, and this is the fourth time I've told you. Obviously, they're gonna be letting me know that, well, I've got recorded, it doesn't happen, I mean, maybe once in a blue moon, and they'll say, here's why, I'm having transmission problems, but. They're not gonna start doing that and become a problem, because then I'm gonna say to you guys,
In the review.
hey, this boat is for the 8 times was late and it's got a problem. And you guys now have a little bit of meat to say, we might not let you run on this dock again.
Right.
So they know that and they take heed to it.
And I didn't see in your reviews any reference to problems with that. Did you see any? No.
No,
Not in the past
it
year.
was a very good season as far as that.
Excellent.
Okay, I'd like to ask a question of one of the day sailors, for example, Aaron. Is your scheduled slots from year to year, are they unchanged? Basically,
They have been for the most part the last 3 years. Nothing that I haven't agreed to. We've all, I think, really come to work together with that pretty well.
I understand that everybody works together out there and to accommodate the needs that come up. But just in terms of the schedule that's included with the application, your slots are pretty much the same every year.
Yep. Hard to change them with pre-planning, People want to know what day they can get married on. They also want to know what time.
And I did want to ask Steve a little bit more about the Sally, so that was on the schedule. Never ran, we saw from the applications for this year, so that, but I guess, did you always use that spot as a buffer zone, meaning you always knew, well, we always have the Sally's 15 minutes, sort of.
And again, yes, it was a buffer. A lot of times here and there, someone would say, can I use it? But they never made it something like, okay, now I'm gonna start using this like on a regular basis. It was more just like
An open spot.
it opens something, like you said, it was buffer, like, oh, I actually go get lunch, or
Mhm.
it looks like one of my bolts broke, it holds my, opening in place, and so I gotta go to Rankins and get one, and leave it, I don't wanna bring the boat over to my mooring, and leave it there, and again. Usually they're smart and say, I've already asked, these 2 guys, and they don't care because they're not bringing, So, yeah, I mean, to make it so. If you were gonna make it so someone, one of those slots, again, all it would be is, it would mean that. Because. I guess, I'm not sure why you asked that, but.
I just curious how much you used that buffer spot. That was
Yeah,
all. It's on the schedule, so I was like, all right. Another question I did have about, just in terms of, while we're on sort of high level group discussion. When the boats are queuing, air traffic control is waiting, for the boats to come in. We have, obviously these, 6 vessels, but there's also the, Angica and the, Apple operating over in that area. How has that been working? Because now we have 2 vessels that we don't have, that aren't tied to the schedule but need to slide by sometimes. And Appledore being one of the bigger ones. I just wanted to hear a little bit from you about how that's worked. Have you seen any problems? Are they all able to pass starboard to starboard, whatever it is?
Luckily,
Starboard to port?
and knock on wood, all of the skippers that have been hired. And obviously the folks that are here that have been running their boats, they know their boats and the harbor and the small current and the small vicissitudes of nature. And the Ecuador as well. There's never been. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it works very well.
Okay.
Sure, it's tight, but these guys really do.
Mhm.
They're good boating.
Awesome. Anything else, Elliot?
I have another general question on page 2 of the application. There's a section that.
For which one is it?
Attach,
Which application you took?
all of them. This is just an application.
Oh, just a general application. Okay.
And it says attached, departure schedule, okay, and we saw that for all of these. Proof of Coast Guard operator license, vessel certification and inspection. None of that was included with the packages, it's the USD stuff. Steve, can you speak to that? What do you receive from them to document their certifications? And
Yeah, the clerk gets those to make sure she's checked it off that they do have it. They are there.
Okay. So I noticed one application, there was no check off for the site, and I'll question that when we come to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably was the fault of mother. Or actually, it's the fault of Lizzie. Because, yeah. Well, yeah, because I might as well, but yeah, I mean, we discussed and looked at them all, they all had them, she just must have.
And then what are those? Is that an annual certification of inspection?
Yeah, I mean, you can, when the day shows actually talk about that.
We get a lot of forms and paperwork from the Coast Guard to prove that we're allowed to run the boat safely. We just forward that to you guys, basically.
And then the operator licenses are assigned to you as individuals. Is that correct?
Yeah, the way the town has it set up is that whoever owns the boat has to have a Coast Guard license, and we have to give you a copy that it's in good standing.
The owner of the boat.
It's kind of a gray area, but it's implied. Like I guess you could own the boat as a family and have somebody else hired working. That's
They refer to it as the master.
Pardon, what you say?
The Coast Guard refers to it as the master.
Master.
You have to have a master of the vessel tied into the application.
You have a master and requires a COI.
Yeah.
For vessel.
COI inspection documents.
Yep.
And I think it's appropriate that I don't think we need to see, I think that's it is
No,
literally-
captain.
it is literally a checklist item, so I think that's appropriate that the harbor clerk would receive and check those, because it is literally making sure that they have it, just like they have insurance.
It's almost like a backup, I mean, the Coast Guard is very in charge of that, but.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're gonna know if they.
Yeah, so the Coast Guard, if Coast Guard is anything in a place, they're not gonna be able to run, so.
Right, yeah. Exactly. Any other general questions about the day sailors? All right. Well, let's just go through them one by one, I think. We'll start with Aaron, and his vessels. Since I happen to have that one queued up in front of me. First, we'll take the OLAD. I saw the review, looked clean, solid. And good description of what exactly you've been doing. Just schedule, as I said, has not changed. And I think that you, Steve, I wanted to ask you, as part of your review. Steve, as part of your review, you do go through and make sure that they're using the pump out boat. As well. Is that an item on your checklist?
Yeah.
Scanning through it. Oh, it is, okay. Comply with section 312 of the Clean Water Act, is that what you're talking about? Okay. Oh, and comply with state of Maine no discharge area designation. There it is. Okay. Some of them I noticed you wrote. Uses the pump out boat regularly or something like that, and sometimes you didn't. So is that just a clerical thing or
No, we can review them, I think.
okay,
That's my best memory as far as, I mean, again. We don't, we have a record on the pump out boat, basically, and
okay,
as far as I know, if I miss, I mean, they all use it.
they all use it.
Yeah.
There we go. That's what I'm asking. Yep, good. Any, Aaron, do you have anything that you want to?
No, at the end, I have a thought about that pump out station.
Okay. Does the committee have any questions about the schooner OLAD?
Are we doing owl and owl?
Let's do them individually.
Okay.
Yeah. Schooner OLAD, any further questions on that one? Discussion, motion?
I move that we recommend the application be accepted.
All right,
Second.
seconded by Tom. Thank you. Further discussion on the OLAD. All those in favor of recommending schooner OLAD renewal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you. And now let's look at the Cutter Owl, Aaron Lincoln. And seems to, if the review went well, Steve, it's ready to go and schedule looks good, so. Further discussion on the owl. Motion on the owl, Bruce. Bruce motions for approval of the owl, seconded by Elliot. Further discussion on that one. All those in favor of renewal of the Cutter Owl, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you. Aaron, did you want to give us a story?
I was
grab a mic if you're gonna. But
I was just curious if we could have a longer hose that would run along the whole length of the dock, so we could use the pump out station without actually leaving the docks to like speed that up.
Huh.
Cause then we could just do it on our own and we
Yeah.
wouldn't have to like involve the town, and we kind of do that sometimes too, if they're busy already, because we've been taught how to do that, but. It just seems like if you could add like some sort of piping there that. It would just make it really, really easy and quick, and we wouldn't hold people up when we were pumping out.
Yep, no, I can look into that, because I should be able to get an actual addition to go to that dog leg, and just have an extra piece. But I want to talk to you guys about how long it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk later about that.
cool. Thank you.
Where is
That's
the pump out station that you're referring to?
We only have one, that's a land station. The one that's at the very end of the room ring, we get on the main dock system to the right. But
And wasn't that to be temporary?
that is it.
No, that wasn't.
We got funded, that, the reason that took place as a professional member was because we didn't have one on the other side of the harbor because of all the plumbing and everything when they rebuilt, London Morse. So Pam Parker, who was in charge, was like, I said to her, why don't we just have another one? So we have two. And she was like, I have the money, so sure. She gave it to, well, we pay 10%, but it's in place and that's forever in and on. Pump it out, pump it,
nice.
keep it clean,
Keep it clean.
save the world.
What would be the routing of this longer hose from that station over to the Bay Sailor float? Do I understand that correctly?
I'm gonna talk to these guys because I don't know exactly what they want. And I can get back to it. I'm imagining they're gonna want.
That's another work in progress.
Yeah, I'm gonna imagine, I'm not sure if I can make it that long, but they can stay at the Bay Sailor. Well, they only get 15 minutes of Bay Sailor float anyway. So.
At the end of the day, or, you know, when it's scrubbing the boat or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll figure something out.
All right, let's move on to, so we approved it. Yes, we did vote. Oh,
Yes.
let's move on to surprise now. Leo and Nicole. Again, the reviews seem to be clean, Steve. Didn't see any cause for concern there. Good description of what they've been doing for. Both been here for quite a while, and. It's deprived. Right. And actually, I'm surprised, I think we should, let's discuss this as a two-parter, if you will. They actually have two in their letter. They have two applications. One is for surprise, so let's deal with that. And then the second is for the quote unquote second boat ticket sales option, if you will. But let's deal with the surprise as a boat first and as an operation. Any discussion? I don't see people in the video here.
Is the surprise, I'm looking here, license, they say like supplemental vendors license. Is this the only boat that has that?
My understanding is that is for the, that is the second, quote unquote, second boat, allows them to sell tickets from the table, that they sell tickets for surprise.
Right.
It allows them to sell tickets for something else, and so that's why they need a vendor's license, because they're actually selling something else.
Is Merrill the only operator that has a second boat
No.
designation?
No, Lively Lady has a second boat for, I believe, we'll get to it when we get there, but. Don, do you have a second boat? Yeah, that's what I thought. So, yes, Don has Lively Lady has it for periwinkle as well.
So does this represent a change in operation for Romero?
No,
Wasn't he selling off of the other dock, corner of the other?
Yes, he said, that the Angelica is too big to run off the town dock, so he's got his own private place to put that. But he wants to be able to have the option of selling tickets for it at the surprise table.
So he's gonna not have that other table?
no, that other table that you're referring to on the corner
Yeah.
is on private property. So that is a separate, that town has nothing to do with that essentially. That is dedicated to Angelica. So that vessel, which is his second boat.
So he's wanting to have two tables?
Yes,
Yeah, essentially, yep, and that's what he has currently.
correct.
That's what he has currently. So this represents no change whatsoever for him. He has a table for surprise on municipal property where he sells tickets for surprise. But if someone for some reason doesn't want to go on surprise, he can also sell them a ticket for Angelica, which operates off of private property. And he gives them a ticket, down they go. They can also, if they never see that table, they can go to this other table that's on private property where they would buy a ticket for Angelica. I actually don't know if they could buy a ticket for surprise over there as well, but it's on private property, so it doesn't really matter.
Right. So he's been doing this?
Yeah.
Selling tickets about the table?
Yep, for quite a while. I'm not sure how many years. 3 years, at least
Since Angelica
since Angelica came,
entered the day sailor fleet.
right?
Okay.
Good questions, Elliot, for sure.
Mhm.
Because it is a confusing system. Surprised 104 years old. That's it.
Yeah.
And all right, any further discussion on the application to renew the surprise? Do I have a motion? Bruce, thank you. Motion to renew surprise. Anyone else? After a second, Tom seconds it. Further discussions on surprise? All those in favor of renewing student surprise? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you. Now let's go to this second boat concept, which we sort of just talked about a little bit. Again, I don't like the term second boat. I think it's a second boat ticket sales
Mhm.
addendum, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
They sell
that's a
tickets.
good clarification. for folks
Yeah.
that are
Right.
looking at it every day.
We've spent way too much time on
On that
past
second-
on this topic.
Any questions or discussion about this second boat ticket sales addendum? Allowing Schooner Surprise to sell tickets for the sailing vessel Angelica from their table.
And the fee for that is $600.
I believe it's $600. Yeah,
God bless.
correct. Further discussion on that one? Motion, anybody?
I move that we recommend approval of the Angico second vote.
Thank you very much. Anybody second that one? Bruce, thank you. Further discussion on that one? All those in favor of approving the second vote ticket sales addendum? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you very much. All right, so that takes care of supplies. Sean Lazy Jack, Sean O'Connor, again, yeah, application seemed pretty clean. I know his times was a little bit different, but my understanding is that Sean's Lazy Jack's times have not changed over the years. This is the same. This is the status quo. Bless you. And your review of Lazy Jack was clean as well, all well.
Yeah, they always, Lazy Jack, the last 10 years, it's becoming more and more prominent. He's got a job where he makes good money running the ferry, so he's always much later to get the boat going. And, he doesn't do the shoulder sequence as much at all as the other boats do. So, yeah.
Right, Sean is the handwritten note for schedule.
Yeah, that's what I was asking to clarify. It is actually what matches up with this. The spreadsheet is just the same spreadsheet over and I've just highlighted different people. Any other discussion on the Lazy Jack? Lazy Jack 3, there's 2, excuse me, Lazy Jack 2. A motion on Lazy Jack 2.
I move that we recommend approval, Lazy Jack application.
Thank you very much. Second, anyone? Margie, Miranda first. Further discussion on the Lazy Jack 2. All those in favor of renewal of the Lazy Jack 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you very much. All right, and then the Heritage. Our last Heritage, Jeff Beck. Again, didn't see any changes in his application. Steve, I noticed you said that in your review that sometimes his table was unattended, but with permission, I think you said. So yes, as long as it's with permission, then we're all good, I think. Another great boat, a lot of great boats in this harbor, which is wonderful. Further discussion on the Heritage. Motion on the Heritage. Thank you. Second on the Heritage. RG, thank you. Further discussion on renewal of the Sloop Heritage day sale license. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're knocking them down. All right. Thank you guys for bearing with us. It's long and painful. And now let's get to Lively Lady, if I'm correct. We have the Lively Lady and then a new application for Periwinkle. So let's look at Lively Lady first. Again, great narrative. Appreciate the talk about the parking where you send folks. That's great. All right, any discussion on the Lively Lady? If any, Dom, if you want to say anything, let me know. Happy to hear it on this one. Further discussion on the Lively Lady. Steve, your review was, as I said, clean and no problems, of course. Any other discussion? We have a motion on the Lively Lady application for renewal.
And move we accept the Lively Ladies application for renewal.
Thank you, Margie. Second, Bruce, thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor of renewal of the Lively Lady? Are you?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did have one, sort of I guess it would be a secondary question on the Lively Lady. And this, I guess, is a question sort of for you, Dom. I didn't see, and there were so many documents that I may have gotten it. Did you submit an application for renewal of the second boat ticket sales addendum?
I have not at this point.
Do you intend to?
Well, it depends how the day seller application for Periwinkle goes.
Periwinkle goes, oh, it's a good point, actually. Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
figured instead of creating confusion with
Yep.
several applications for one boat, I take one application at a time.
Mhm.
You're saying this process is confusing?
I don't
Yeah.
want to confuse anyone.
And,
Sorry.
Okay, well then, all right, so that takes care of Lively Lady. And, so we've gone through 6, right? No, these track. Still 6.
Six.
I think we went through 6. So we now have a new application for,
5 day sale.
1, 2, 3, 6.
Didn't get full ad and
1, 2, 3,
Ow.
4, 5, 6.
No, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, right, so it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
we've gone through 6 so far. We voted on 6 so far. So then, I hope you guys got the letter from, Dominic and Liz, regarding their application for second, to operate a new vessel. Let's call it that, 7th, to utilize the 7th license, because as everyone knows, I think, there are 7 permits, day sailor permits in the, currently allowed, if you will, legally through the town. That at the select board's discretion, they can opt to, fulfill all or I suppose none of those licenses. In the past, they have done a 6 that we have just talked about, and then the 7th was occupied by the vessel Sally, which did not run this year. And as part of the review criteria, that is one of the criteria the vessel has to run. And for that reason, and they have chosen not to renew with Sally. So there is technically this 7th license open. And we have an application for it for Periwinkle, operated by Dom and Liz, who will also own the Lively Lady. What else we can say about 1 second? I just want to look at that application real quick. Elliot.
I have a question for Dom. Do you intend to operate Periwinkle off the day sailor float?
Well, that depends if it gets approved or not. If it got approved, then absolutely. That would be much.
And if you were approved, would you forego the use of steamboat landings for Periwinkle?
That's the plan, yes. That is the goal.
And as I understand it, in the inner harbor, Steve, please correct me if I'm wrong on this. In the inner harbor, the commercial day sailors licensed by the town of Camden can only use the day sailor float for loading and unloading passengers. They cannot load and unload passengers from other municipal facilities in the inner harbor. By that, I mean the finger floats and stuff. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, in the inner harbor, it's.
Just the inner harbor.
Over the years, it's changed a little bit, but it was pretty specific that they're not to use the overnight dock system.
It's in, I think it's in the ordinance.
To run, to not run offside.
Yeah, so if they, so to sort of follow up your question, Elliot, if the select board approved that this license and a public landing addendum for the Periwinkle, it would have to operate from the day sailor float in the air. If that makes sense. Does that answer your question? Okay. I just wanted to, so I guess you haven't done a review of the Periwinkle. Steve, I'm going to ask you a question, kind of a weird question probably, but the Periwinkle has been in the harbor for quite a while, a couple of years at least now. Have you have had experience interacting with Dom and his operators of it? Have you had any problems with it, with the Periwinkle in the, operating in Camden Harbor?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, like all the day sailors, as far as I'm concerned, I think they all go too fast.
Mhm.
I don't want to, again, it's just, I'm definitely not singing the dirty cloud, it's just, I think they all know. That I kind of have a pet peeve about, it getting close into the inner harbor and leaving the inner harbor and entering the inner harbor. I don't like to see, people stand, I don't want to see white foam coming off your bow, and that's anyone, I don't want to get into this, but I'm almost tired of saying it, I'm almost gonna stop because maybe it's just me, because I've never heard you guys say, hey, Steve, why don't you do your job and slow these people down? No one's ever said that to me, so maybe I'm just a sticker about it or something, so I kind of backed off a little bit, but, no, I've never had a problem with the periwinkle.
Awesome. But actually, that's a great point, because that's one of the questions that I have, and I sort of started asking about it earlier in the day, is with regards to schedules. It's a 15-minute time slot.
Mhm.
And if we were to add, if the town, the select board were to add a 7th boat to that schedule, it's gonna make the schedule a little tighter. It removes that buffer that the periwinkle, that the Sally previously used. There is the potential because all these boats are running on they're running on the clock. They need to do the trips on time and all of that. There is the potential for that to have a trickle down effect of causing the boats to have to speed up a little bit more to get into there, because there's no wiggle room now for their 15 minutes. I'm not saying that any of the boats would exceed the speed limit, etc. But I'm just saying that would be a potential impact of that 7th boat. Margie?
Was the 15-minute time allotment taken into consideration, Steve, when the Sally had the 7th berth spot? I mean, what was the time scale of 15 minutes deemed appropriate for 7-day sailors?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, again, you're talking about the fact that. You're correct, if you put this in, and if you decide to say, oh, let's try the periwinkle. And that would, like, my recommendation is to, if you guys do decide that, if you want my take on it. We're supposed to be promoting maritime business, I would say, yes, and I would think that's where the chase, Dom has come to you guys first as a committee to say whether you're going to recommend this to the select board. And Mr. Chairman, stop me if I'm jumping the gun here, but I mean, I would not, if you actually come out and ask me, what do you think, Steve, as a harbor master? I wouldn't want to give the periwinkle a 3-year permit. If you do decide, I would recommend that you say to the select board, you want to give it a 1-year trial period.
I was gonna suggest.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, great minds think alike. Will it make it so there's a little less wiggle room? Yeah.
Well, because I think it's important to recognize that the town has, and correct me if I'm wrong on this one, Steve, the town has never had a fully operational 7th boat. The town, we've had the Sally, which maybe operated a tiny bit, a little bit a few years back or whatever. But am I right that we've never had one that had a distinct schedule and
No,
really?
we've never had.
So this is-
Obviously, when the Sally was supposed to run the first year, everyone was kind of like making sure they weren't in that spot, thinking that Sally was going to run, because at that point, Sally actually had a table up and they were selling trips. But if I'm correct in remembering, they only ran they literally only used that dock like 3 times, 4 or 5 times.
Very few, yeah.
And I don't know why, I still can't figure that out. But yeah, so it would have to be a trial thing.
Elliot,
The ordinance prescribes 7-day sailors.
correct. Yep, at the select board's
Discretion.
discretion, that's the key. The 7 day sailors have been in the ordinance for a long time. And originally, I think there were 5 for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
At one point, there were 3.
You're correct, Josh. I mean, for many years, when I was harbor master, probably the first 14 or 15 years. They always gave the 5 permits and they kept the other 2 in their pocket.
Yep.
Knowing it was there, but they never gave it out. No one even, would ask me, hell, would they ever give them out? And I would just say, I don't think so. They don't have any intention to. Then the olive came around, it was a perfect fit, and Aaron liked it, and it was a smaller boat, and so they said yes, and then I think that opened up the idea, then Ray came in and said, well, here's a boat, it's a, it's the slot, and so we tried it, and again, you're right, we've never actually, that's the run
Right.
full time, but it's coming in on a slide. Are these guys good enough to make this work? I don't want to pet their egos, but yeah, would be a little more in their ass, yeah.
Am I correct that looking at this application that I'm asking you this, Tom, you're proposing that you take all of the Sally's slots? Exactly.
Well, that's what I kind of put to simplify it, but in all honesty, Sally's got a ton of slots. Periwinkle is a strict charter boat. It doesn't run every day. I calculated all and it actually ran, it was about half of the available summer days, most of them being in July and August. I mean, in the shoulder seasons, it's, a couple days a week, but, and that's 2 to 4 trips a day. I'm gonna join Harbor Cruises, I live in Camden. So really what I'd like to do is sit down with the schedule, if it got recommended, and try to pick the, 3, maybe 4 slots that would have the biggest gap openings. And so it would work the easiest, because I don't want to be in a rush. I don't want us to be in a rush. I put that on the, just to kind of simplify it, that there are these available slots and,
Right.
and we would take the existing available ones that are open, but.
Okay, so I guess that's my point. If you'd take, maybe you wouldn't, I don't know, maybe 8 or something on here, I can't tell.
I would, maybe not.
But you would take, say, 4 of those. It wouldn't
Yeah.
be 4 different ones.
Of those, or I don't know, maybe if there's a big hole in the schedule where there's no boats there for 45 minutes, then I
Then
might
you'd
take
be-
the 15-minute in the middle of that,
You might be interested in that.
Yeah.
If that worked. Okay.
It's the schedule I have spent. Oh my God, probably days worth of hours dealing with that schedule. It's quite confusing. As you probably know, trying to read it. But yeah, I'd be,
And you can take a maximum. Oh, there it is, 19 passengers.
yeah, 19 is the maximum, but generally it's anywhere from around 10, I'd say. Yeah, unless we're doing the cruise ship, and then they get a little bit, then they get, around 16, 17.
Okay.
15 is about the comfort level in that boat.
Don, do you intend to continue to work with American Cruise Lines?
Yeah, if I can, they are, and it's a substantial, amount of income. That's the reason we bought that second boat, is because of them. It was cutting into too many of our, we're having to turn away too many of our public passengers that, come with us, our clientele that comes every year and stuff like that. And
So would it be practical for them to disembark their passengers where they let the people off for the walking tour?
yes, yep.
And then let them walk down.
So it would simplify.
So
the
then let the
operation a
bus
lot,
can just continue on.
because then they can
to-
just make their camping stop.
Right.
The Village Green,
Which is right across, yeah, right
yeah,
there.
where the bus stop is in
They can
town.
walk down.
And then, they come in the morning, drop off their camping people, and one group goes at, whatever time, the next group goes at another time, and the afternoon they do the same.
Thanks.
All right, Margie.
And that would negate, Margie Gross, that would negate you using Steamboat Landing and the buses being there,
That's,
idling and all that jazz.
that's the goal.
Thanks.
I miss having that topic to bounce around.
Okay.
The only one thing that, since we do some water taxi trips, which, loading up gear, bringing families out to, Spruce Island or whatever, there may be with Steve or something about. Finding a loading and unloading zone, wherever that may be in the harbor. Because I mean, that is a good asset to have in town, is water tax. We do need that. Sometimes the day sail float isn't the best option for that, so. But that would be further discussion.
Down
With me up to
there.
Steve, and this, I mean, that's not it. It does not do that. You do that.
Any other discussion about the application for the periwinkle for essentially the use of the 7th permit? Tom,
No, I was gonna actually give you a motion.
do it up.
All right, so I'm gonna recommend that we approve Periwinkle's application and make a recommendation to the select board that they consider a 1-year provisional acceptance. Then it could come back for further review with the input of the harbor master after a year's operation.
And then maybe
And at that point, we could,
amend for 2 additional years or
Yeah.
something, if appropriate.
Right.
Because then I'm getting on, what I wouldn't want is somebody on a different cycle than everybody else.
Well, if I can make a recommendation to your motion. If you could put in that it's a 1-year provisional. But I'm not going to accept, because he's saying periwinkle and all these slots, I'm not gonna give him all of these slots that Sally currently has, which he already says he doesn't want.
Right.
I'm gonna work with him and the other day sailors to make sure that he gets a few spots that is the least impact to the current schedule. That's, so now I don't know if you can put that into a motion.
yes, you can add that to the motion that the schedule be amended with input from the harbor master,
Job collect.
which will limit the available slots.
Yeah, maybe amended and if I might, Tom, that application would only be approved and valid with the harbor master's approval of the schedule, which I think is already, you have to approve all the schedules. So I think to clarify, like,
If you think it'd be good, it's in the motion.
Yeah. that's a twisted motion.
That's a, yeah, well,
Well, no.
yeah.
How did you,
I know what you meant, though.
do you feel, well, I know what these are like to
I know
read.
what you mean.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, so we are.
Bruce, do you feel like you got that?
You have.
I think I got it,
You did?
Right.
All right,
Excellent.
all right, there's the
I'll be sending
motion.
the minutes around, everybody can rewrite it.
But that's an important motion. This is an
Yes.
important topic. Do I have a second on that motion? Margie, thank you.
Who did the vote?
Tom did the motion. Further discussion of the new application from Camden Harbor Cruises for the operation of the Periwinkle. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you very much. I do, yes, thank you, Tom. I would say, I think now that we have done that, there's the second vote issue. Second boat ticket sales thing, which we don't currently have an application.
Right, and I don't think we can actually consider that until there is an
Right.
application submitted, so the next step would be to submit that application, and then it can come back to us,
if necessary.
if necessary.
If necessary, I guess that's true. We really can't, because you can't have an application until the select board does whatever it's gonna do.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's sort of a chicken and egg thing.
Yes, it really is. All right, I think that is it for the day sailors and windjammers. Did I miss anything on those ones? No. All right, thank you guys for your time.
I'd like to thank them all too. We have a lot of nice boats operating in Camden.
Yeah.
It's a pretty awesome group, and a pretty awesome group of folks and people. It really
Yeah.
is. We're lucky. We really are pretty diverse, which is awesome. Yeah. Okay, enough on that item. Now we're gonna go to the final item of the day, which is the harbor fees schedule review. This one, Liz is putting some pressure on me to get that done as quickly as possible. With regards to, because they have to, the select board has to approve them so that they can then go to go out, I believe, by January 1. Thanks, Tim.
I got it.
Have a great day. Have a good one. Enjoy the day.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Don. All right.
That's the only one, that's the only one we got to raise.
What's that?
I think, as far as the fees go, Liz and I look at that every year and we kind of discuss things by ourselves, and I believe we only made one recommendation for to change something.
For this year, Aiden?
Yeah,
Which one was that?
they said, okay.
Interesting. I don't have that recommendation.
Oh, okay, well,
You can make it while we're on this discussion.
yeah, I can actually text, I can just, you guys can start talking and I can text Liz,
I guess, because I wanted to, as we do every year, we review these every year, we have to, and recommend changes, if any, to the select board. I've reviewed these, thank you, Elliot, for doing a tremendous amount of
that's a lot of
research.
work.
That was a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that we could raise every single rate on this list if we wanted to. We could recommend, we can't raise anything, but we could. And just because we can, doesn't mean we should.
Right.
And,
We recommend lowering.
and we could recommend,
one ever thinks about
it's, the recommendation is for changes, or the question about is changes, so we certainly could. I don't believe that we should lower any, that I know of, at this time. However, I also don't believe that this, in this economy where we are right now, that this is the right time. I don't see the need to raise these rates for really for anyone. So for that reason, after reviewing all of the after reviewing all of Elliot's research, comparing and really thinking a lot about what we have in Camden, the mix of the harbor, that's recreational, commercial, that's fishermen, that's day sailors, that's windjammers, that's, people in their rowboats. It's awesome, as we just said, it is a truly amazing harbor, and I'm happy to be there every single day. So, I'm not seeing the need to raise rates, for anyone.
The discussion that we had was the fact that, ever since the pandemic, you've seen, a drop in a lot of different things economically. But for some reason, it seemed like it shifted. And people like windjammers, people definitely wanted just because of the fact that they lived in a closed area, they never, the windjammers had a significant drop. But folks, I guess, felt, hey, we're tired of being cooped up, and look at this, there's a place we can go in open air and it's safe, and let's go on a 2-hour sail. And so that you saw the volume go significantly up for day sailors, and it doesn't seem like it's dropped. So I guess, we have the same feeling as you, Josh, is like, well, everything's pretty comfortable, everything's set, but we definitely said you could definitely raise that up because, I guess to put it bluntly, their pillowcases are pretty stuffed. They're doing very well. So that's the only reason we said, and it's just an idea, it's just.
So what is your suggestion, to raise the day sailor fees? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, where are the fees right now? 2,600.
2,600 in 2022.
Yeah,
Okay.
we we actually came up with just bringing it up to 3,000. But anyways, any kind of like, just to show that, I guess, to say that, you're not just, again, we basically were like, well, we were honest with each other. What's the one thing we would think we would want to advise you, or at least talk to you guys about changing, and that was it. So you guys can either discuss that or not.
Yeah. Well, let's discuss that. Tom.
Yeah, running a boat is a lot of hard work. And they may have not lost business, and they may have gained more business, but the cost of running a boat has increased. maintenance, parts, labor.
And they did lose parking.
Fuel, they lost
And
parking,
we talked about
fuel.
that too, so.
And so the cost of operation has increased. So if we look at it only from one standpoint as an entrepreneur and say, wow, business is good, you know, and I'm not. Well, there's another side of the equation in that expenses have increased as well. And I feel that holding the line at 26 is good.
Yeah, and this is something we review annually. On the one hand, I was like, well,
Give them a break.
this is a 3-year contract, but the
Right.
fees are as set by the select board each year. So 2,600 this year, it could be, you know, whatever, next year and the year after that. Because that was a concern that I had was, wait a minute, what if,
My question is,
What are we
what do you
locking in?
need the extra $2,800 for? 7,400. Just because you
Well, I
just
just-
want to swap the money to.
Yeah, I mean, I could bring in the, you know, the other department heads to show what they're gonna require for.
Oh, yeah,
money.
yeah.
I mean, the town can always use the money.
yeah, and
I
that's.
guess it becomes it becomes a great discussion on what's fair, what is equitable. You know, and I think that's the word I would use is that. You know, if you look at to see what that costs. You know, what does it cost to run a boat? To get a permit to run a Camden Day Sailor dock, and what does that get you?
Right.
I mean, if you're there every day watching the amount of people that go on those boats, we are funneling everybody through this idea, and I think we've done a great job at it. I think the
Right,
town has done
right.
a great job to like the chairperson had said earlier, it's a diverse group, and I like to think that I over the years have kind of helped cultivate that. If I wasn't a former windjammer captain of 10 years and know the bay, if I was gonna come up here and get this experience. You know, I would definitely be like, no, honey, let's stop here. Let's look at this on Google. Look at what they have here. Let's look. I mean,
Yeah.
but
It's a destination for.
it's an amazing destination and it's an amazing thing. You know, to look at something and say, well, should we raise it? Should we? I mean, that's.
Yeah, that's
It's
arbitrary.
always
And
been-
that's also, this is a funny place, the fact that we review the fee schedule, I think. To your point, Bruce,
Yeah.
as it relates to the overall business of the harbor, because that's really the budget committee and Steve.
Mm.
We sort of don't get involved in the finances of the harbor it's not a business, but as a entity, as a department. So
Yeah,
I think we don't go there in terms of what he would need. I do think to the point about the day sailors, I think your point is a great one, Tom, in that though it does seem that they were very busy this year, seemed like it, but I mean, that's purely just watching boats come and go. It's a pretty inexact observation on my part. But I do know firsthand that all of the expenses have gone up. Just as they have for everybody.
Gotta hire somebody.
I also know, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Ticket sailors are obviously difficult to come by now.
nobody wants to work it.
Right. But I do also recognize two things. One, that the select board, during the pandemic, which was a financial hit on everyone, did forego or, otherwise, they reduced the fees. So there was a concession there, a recognition of what they were going through. But I also want to recognize that at the select board's decision, they took away a benefit
Right.
of these licenses last year. And it was a fairly significant one, the parking. And that was a pretty significant one. So that I would have a hard time suggesting raising the rates for this next year because of that, recognizing that factor. So
And then that's why I brought that up as well. That wasn't an economical, fiduciary kind of hit. It was more of like a comfort kind of thing. Like, yeah, you don't get this anymore. This little kind of like fringe benefit, it's now, we're taking it away. And you can't put a monetary value on that. But it definitely was something that now they don't have.
exactly. Okay, any other discussion, Elliot?
Josh, you touched on, that we don't get involved in the finances of the harbor, and I think that there should be some oversight of the harbor finances by the harbor committee. I don't understand why we don't do that. And I have a habit of looking at the annual report and try and identify harbor-related revenues and expenses. And it's not easy.
I know.
And for example, here in our 2020 report, the harbor master gave a summary of his annual statement. Unfortunately, the numbers didn't add up to what the income, these numbers don't total the number that's printed here on the page. And I think that just shows that there's some difficulty in pulling together all of those numbers. And then when we talk about fees, that those are part of the harbor income, harbor related income. And I think the big picture is important, and we don't have that big picture. And that's just a comment on my part.
I think it's a good comment, Elliot. Because I've sort of struggled with that as well. Like, how do we sort of have oversight over the harbor without knowing all of the pieces? But unfortunately, that's sort of the way that the town governmental structure is set up right now. That everything, because we've asked this question, and that's the budget committee sets it, the select board approves it, and there's a very clear path. And it's partially that those budget committees recommendations are many public hearings, et cetera. It allows for a lot of public input. And I would say this is for the public and everyone. Everyone in town should be involved in that budget committee and should be either on it or participating in the meetings or a part of it. It's a huge part of determining what happens, because money talks. Money is what really matters. Not matters. That's the wrong statement. I don't like the way that came out.
It does matter.
But in the end, money does matter, and the budget committee is incredibly important to the operation of the town. So we all, as committee members, should be at least paying attention to those budget committee meetings that happen in the spring. Would probably, it'd be nice if we had somebody on that committee to sort of let us know what's happening.
I have a question, and it's more of a clarification, Josh. You kind of made a statement that during the beginning or during the pandemic, the town decreased the harbor fees
For the day sailors
for the day
and the
sailors.
wind jammers.
What was it for the 2,600? Did you?
No, that number was, I think it was the same. I can't remember who
Yeah, I
raised it
don't know.
last time,
Yeah.
but they
cut it
did
in half.
they cut it in half? Is that what they
Just
did?
because they weren't allowed.
I think so.
Gotcha.
So.
I think they waived them for, sorry, I think they waived them for the wind jammers completely for that 1 year, because all 1 year,
They
year
never got
we don't
uncovered,
like to speak of.
right?
They never got uncovered. They sat
Right.
there under shrink wrap all summer long.
Yes.
Horrible.
So that was in effect for only 1 year, and then it went back. to
Correct, and then it went back
2,600.
to.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Elliot.
Josh, are budget committee members appointed or elected?
No, they.
I don't know the answer to that question.
I think the last time I looked, it was like 5 empties.
I think they're appointed, because I think you have to, yeah, I'm pretty
I've never
sure
seen
they're
their ballot.
appointed.
They're appointed, and does anyone know, are there ex officio members on the harbor
No.
committee? Or budget committee?
No,
And,
Have you ever done
yeah, I was on it.
Well,
It's a lot
again,
of work,
and
a
Mr.
lot of hours.
Kevin Stetson, you can help me out with this. In the 21 years I've been here, the affiliation of this committee with the harbor fee schedule and just the basic, fiduciary part of the harbor has completely, it's been very variable. Like in the beginning, they had a much bigger part than they do now. And at one point, and I'm not sure, Richard, if you were the chairperson or not, but Carol Sue Greenleaf, the past, finance director, and I believe it was Roberta Smith, she was the town manager. They both kind of came to me and said, we reread this, and we don't know why the harbor committee is so involved, and they basically sent a letter saying,
Don't get
closed doors, you guys don't even discuss this anymore. It's not your purview. I was surprised, that happened, and I would invite you guys to maybe, and I'm not sure how you would do this, maybe the chairperson would say to the select board and the town manager, could we kind of be somehow tangentially involved again? I mean,
Yeah, we can ask.
I don't know, you know, because it does make sense. You guys are spending a lot of time reviewing things about the harbor. And I would not be, and again, I would not, it would be welcomed by me to have you guys kind of put your 2 cents in. So,
And I would,
no pun
again,
intended.
sort of, following that up, though, we are all citizen residents of the town of
Exactly,
Camden, and we can all apply. Every single one of us could apply
Yep.
to that, I believe. I don't think there's a, there's
The
a
last time I-
prohibition against being on more than one.
When are
committee.
the appointments made?
yeah.
Are they made in the spring?
I don't know.
I don't know, but the last time I looked, there was like 5 or 6 empty seats.
Yeah, I think it's always open.
And the
Yeah.
new charter reduced the numbers.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, okay.
And again, I
It
mean,
used to
I'm
be-
just
it was
speaking of the cup here, I don't
23,
know
I'm
for
getting
sure.
23 people.
Like I said, we had a chairperson, God rest his soul, Willard White, who was, he was chairperson for 32 years. So it became a concrete thing, and I think it's possible that maybe somebody was, felt threatened, because it was such a, I mean, it was a force to be reckoned with. It was the chair, this committee was, even though, and he would always say this, quick wrong, this is, just let me remind you, this is strictly an advisory committee, we have no power whatsoever. And that's how we would start the meetings, to make sure, but at the same time, I think that it's possible that
Willard had power.
maybe, yeah, they were starting to have a little more power, and that's why, you guys would, in a nice way, say, okay, it doesn't say anything anywhere that you guys have, any purview over this, so stop. But I think we could at least go that
Yeah.
direction, at least ask.
Well, let's bring it back to the,
relative to.
relative to
review.
the agenda item. Do we have any further discussion on this? Yes, Elliot?
Regarding the dinghy fees. We have a category of, I'm gonna use the word vessels. That are paddle boards, kayaks, canoes, etc. And there's been a big initiative in the harbor to accommodate them with the land racks, etc. And I thought it might be appropriate if we had a designation for those that encompassed all of those types of craft. And I don't know what that is. I've got personal vessels written down here, but I wondered if others might have some term that could be used to describe the line item fee.
Personal watercraft.
Well, there was a
Didn't
proposal,
they,
yeah.
didn't they add a line, or there are several, I don't have the fees schedule in front of me. But aren't there 3 fees presently, and one of them is not non-motorized?
No motors slash electric.
And then there's
75.
electric, and then there's small and large motors.
Yep,
I think.
over 20 horsepower is 225, and less than that is 125, depending
Right.
if you're if you're a
For
resident.
a long time, it was only a single fee.
Correct.
It was
So I wanted to ask, you had a proposal maybe two months ago or something about segregating what I would call paddle vessels, canoes, kayaks, and you could include paddle boards. So paddle boards are usually brought out of the water. That was a suggestion, and I don't think we've acted on that. I do see that as sort of a management administration issue. But you were talking about having a different sticker for them. And that hasn't gone anywhere, just to be clarified. Is that correct?
No, that hasn't gone anywhere, but it's a great conversation, and because they don't have a motor or a heavy engine, it makes it so it's usually a personal watercraft, a vessel, whatever you want to call it, that can be easily lifted out of the water. So because now we have 3 new racks, and soon to be 4, that can hold, and they're double tiered racks on top of each other, so that they hold probably about 42 to 44 watercrafts. It's almost like it's self-governing itself, because now obviously someone with an 8 horsepower engine is not gonna take the engine off and take it out of the water. So it's kind of finding a spot anyway, but we can definitely put it in conversation on how to even better do it.
Do the people use the racks and they pay a fee?
Yes.
They pay the same thing. The paddle, the no, yes,
Yeah, I mean, again, if you have something They have those awesome new electric engines where you can take this battery out, it's a light little thing on it, so they might be able to lift that up and put it in
Put
a
it in a
rack,
rack.
you might see that once.
So what I would suggest, Elliot, and I want to hear from you on this, is rather than, I'm a little leery of creating a new line, but for this year, because this proposal is sort of in play, is to having essentially another sticker for paddle operated paddle boats, you know what I mean, which is kayaks but I think it could be a different sticker, but I don't think it needs to be a separate price, a different price. I think it would still be $75. It's not very much money in the big scheme.
But you've got rowboats also in there.
Right.
Because I used to row to my.
Right, but the tenders would generally stay in the water.
Right.
You know what I mean? Whereas these are the things that are gonna go into the rack, unless it's a small tender, that might go into a rack, but I think we're talking about canoes, kayaks, paddleboards. So I guess what I'm saying is that I think it is covered under the no motor / electric number. And it is, we're getting a lot of items under the dinghy fees right now. There's a lot of, criteria.
No motor.
No motor,
No motor.
Is there any
We
no
have a
motor?
no motor,
Yeah.
$75.
no motor and electric, yeah, it's the same thing.
A great step in the right direction.
Yeah. Any other discussion on
I
this?
just want to bring up one thing I was thinking about, that especially now that we're at a 3-year contract, this is for the day sailors and windjammers. If we're gonna raise fees in the future, maybe come up with a fee schedule. That say the fee will go up 3% a year or something
Oh.
like that. Each year, so that they can know ahead of time, instead of all of a sudden they've left the meeting and we raise their fees a whole bunch.
Yeah.
and
I think we'll be,
predictable, they can plan for it.
yeah, I think we'll be discussing it,
Yeah,
every
just
year.
not to do anything now. just- I
Yeah,
just
maybe a
wanted to
little
bring that up.
earlier in the year too, sort of be like,
Given our position and the fact that, what happens in the select board meeting in the future is,
changeable at best.
is changeable, is a moving target at best.
Yeah.
You may not have an oar in the water.
Right, unless you go to the meeting and make yourself quite vocal.
Correct. Any other discussion on this point? Or do we have a motion? Anyone?
For what?
For this, for the harbor fee schedule to accept the
We
Accept it.
we accept it, and we continue to maintain the fees on the 2022 schedule.
unchanged. Yep,
Unchanged.
second on that motion. Elliot,
Second that.
thank you. Further discussion on the harbor fees? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you very much, everyone. That's it for the agenda. I hope we are done. Oh, Elliot.
I do have one question regarding our moratorium issue. I don't know if this was in the minutes this past time, I did read them. But I know there was talk about getting involved with the Conservation Commission.
Yep.
And planning board, I can't, I don't.
Yep. So just,
Thought I put something.
yeah, he did. Yeah, you did.
We were gonna invite-
We did invite them to the last meeting. Unfortunately, both Ethan and Rebecca were ill that day, unable to attend in person. Ethan tried to participate via Zoom, and he actually did participate via Zoom. He was there, but it was not ideal. So we will be inviting them again to the next discussion of that peer moratorium.
And we have a time constraint on this.
We do, and I've been feeling quite a bit of pressure on that, and I spoke with both Sophie, Romana, and Jeremy about that in the interim. And we do have a time constraint, but we're not quite as squeezed as I thought we were. So I was trying to get it done by the end of December, and that's not necessary nor reasonable. So we're going to tackle it in January. That'll be,
So our current moratorium extension period goes into March, is that correct?
I believe so. Now, the select board can vote to extend it if they want to for another 6 months. The goal, though, is, I think everyone knows, is if we recommend any ordinance changes as a result of that review, that those be voted on by the voters in June. So that's really the thing to think about, June. But to do that, we have to have all of our work done by, I think it's the very beginning of April.
Right.
Because there's, you have to get the wording approved, and the select board has to have public hearings and all that. So I'm trying to make sure that we're done with our part well in
There's
advance.
a lot of steps in the process.
Yeah, after we're done, there's a lot of steps. So I am very strongly trying to be done for a number of reasons with
Sooner than
ours
later.
in January. In
Is
January.
this particularly on one subject?
This is on the pier, and the moratorium on piers, docks, floats, and other structures in the the outer and coastal harbors.
So, I mean, Mr. Captain Stetson, I know you know this, but I mean, there was a point when this committee did a comprehensive study on how many new floats or how many new piers and floats could be,
And we're doing that again.
you're doing that again, so I remember,
I,
I remember Ben Ellison led that, I think you were part of that, specifically showing overview maps, Google saying, here's.
So
how
we've
many-
been doing all that for this. We're doing that again. We're doing that. That was like 8 years
That
ago.
was 8 years ago, and they brought this to, they unanimously voted as a committee that there should be a moratorium on this. And it was 100% shut down.
Yep.
that was
And
bad.
that may happen again, and it may not. I don't want to go there. So
I just think it's curious now that maybe this committee, I think, had a good, foresight on, this is something we should look at.
yeah, so we're gonna do it again, if you will. But it's this is a new committee completely, since that last one. So,
We're almost there.
we're almost done. So I think in terms of our next meeting, which we should set, is I think January. I need to really,
Me
I have a
too.
lot of things, everybody has a lot of things going on. So let's talk about the next meeting. I want to just look at my calendar if I will. I'm gone tomorrow and then with the holiday, so we won't be able to meet in December. Again, this was our December meeting. So let's look at January. I'd like to meet early-ish in January. It's all something to do in the dark days. How would the 4th, how would the 11th work? Actually, that 4th is an awesome for me.
11th works for me.
Yeah, I can do that.
Is that a Wednesday?
That's a Wednesday.
I've already got it on my calendar.
All right, 11th it is, 0800.
And we're really gonna try to button down the moratorium issue on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's right.
Regarding the
Awesome.
moratorium, peer moratorium, I recommend, I strongly suggest that all committee members listen to the select board, working group or whatever it was, meeting on July 21st. There's a video online. And listen to their discussion about that and what they talk about and what they expect. From the Harvard Committee. Josh attended that meeting along with planning board.
Yep, yeah, Ethan was there as well. Yep.
But I think it'd be useful if everybody listened to that. And that might help inform our discussion a little bit.
That was the one that, only department heads. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys, yeah.
What was the date of that meeting?
July 21st.
Public land access to Shermansville. They're assigned everywhere out on the harbor, and maybe that. Really. However, Sherman's Point Road,
Very end.
at the very end, you get to the end, and then there's a T,
Yep.
and public access is to the right. Landowners on each side.
It's changed over the years, but they had a big. Yeah, well, we used to have more public access.
Used to be Thorndike Park way back then.